The Island, a story about leaving the home. My wife told me after a daily minor argument last weekend that she loves me but doesn't like me and isn't sure we should stay together. We have a 4-year-old little girl. I would be lying if I told you I never did anything to hurt our relationship. But I have a temper, and about 20 times in our entire marriage I went off in manner unbecoming of a good husband. In fairness, she gave as good in return, but I take 100% accountability for it. Here's the rub: everything she tells me she wants to see changed I am completely on board with. But there is a catch. She has pain condition and is on several medications, half of which affect her mood. I believe this is also affecting her judgment, even though I think her requests are still completely reasonable. I love her completely. She is a great mom and wife considering all the setbacks she has had. But it does feel like I am going to be single again, and I am still shocked by that thought. She is a stay-at-home now. She was a well-compensated professional until a few years ago when the condition started beating her down. Definitely committed to working on me, and so that had already started. But it may be I fear that the past few years and mounting medical issues have numbed her to what is good about me, us and life in general. Still, won't let that stop me from trying. Near the beginning of our relationship, she had several friends, guys and girls, most of whom I really liked and often joined in on the fun. However, work with people all day long, and to boot am an only child, so need some downtime from people. Initially our fights, which we don't handle well admittedly, were around the sheer amount of time she wanted to spend with friends. She always wanted me to go with her, but it was just too much, not to mention nothing at home would get done. Then after a few years we found a nice grove, have many mutual friends, and we had a solid 5 years where if we fought, I couldn't even tell you what it was about. 2 years ago, we were relocated and moved to a neighborhood where a ton of kids our daughter's age happened to live. Initially a great thing. However, while it has been great, my wife has made friends with several of the parents. One in particular that is a drunk basically, and the only advice she ever gives anyone is leave, which she did in her first marriage. My wife wants to be up there all the time. As per usual I don't, but where initially it worked that I would join 50% of the time, she seemingly started holding it against me. Plus, sometimes I found it hard to control my temper with the neighbors, especially when I felt they were being derelicts around my daughter. To be fair, I can have been extremely mean in arguments, which she told me lead to the separation request. She loves me but doesn't like being around me. She also has had a tough few years, being diagnosed with fibromyalgia and basically losing her career, but I have always stood by her even when the thought of bonding to her was crazy given the pain she was in. I love my wife fully. I would not leave her for something like health issues. I can't help but feel while we have some issues, like my anger to fix, that I have been pushed aside for friends. I want to reconcile once we have had some time and space despite some of the issues. My wife actually doesn't get drunk too often because of how alcohol interacts with her meds. We are consulting an attorney around the separation agreement that needs to be drawn up. I moved out, but in truth so will she, because she asked for the separation after we had already put our current home under contract to sell. Even though I was there for her the entire time, supportive. I don't think I am very good with relationships because I never thought to give her a break from all of it. I feel bad about not paying more attention sooner, but I don't think that makes our relationship worth walking away from either. To me, all of our issues are fixable if she will agree to work on them with me. My personal issues will be worked on regardless, but I want us to stay together. My wife and I have been separated about 3 weeks now. If you read my earlier threads you will know why and my plans for a 180 at this point. However, I have some apprehension around completely adhering to the 180 next month because the 15th would be our 9-year anniversary. I'm giving her time and space, and only because of our daughter do we talk every day. But mostly about kids. It's cordial but distant. Wanted any thoughts or insight on the following idea. I know she would not appreciate a gift at this point. She doesn't think I should spend the money on her when we're separated. But what about a nice card where I list the reasons I chose her over all the others in the beginning? Something that reminds her why I fell in love with her. So, I am having a weekend away from my wife. We'll have my little girl with me and I can't wait, to be honest. But I am having the hardest time with the 180. My wife is truly wonderful and yet so confused it is hard for the fixer and me not to reach out. She did tell me that she needs time to get her head straight and can't tell me whether she wants me back or not. Then she calls me because she is so sad about where life has landed for her at this stage. I fear the meds she takes for her fibromyalgia will cloud her judgment and we'll never really know if she stays or goes, if it was what she really wanted in her heart. This blows chunks. Part of what has made reconciliation hard is my wife's complete detachment and the fact that she believes she fell in love with a mutual friend. Also, friends in the neighborhood, including her best friend, all encouraged her to leave me and pursue the other not good friends obviously. But at the beginning of this journey my wife sided with them. She takes one thing seriously at this point: fidelity. We both agreed to this at her request until we could get some space and time to think. The mutual friend she fell for got angry at her and told her to get her crap together. Then we found out her so-called friend started spreading infidelity rumors about her. The ones I trust know it's bogus, as do I, because some of the stories and timing are impossible and don't add up. Lastly, my wife has fibromyalgia and has been severely impacted by the medications, changes in medication, etc. We are now on a pre-planned family trip to relatives, and they too are noticing her imbalance. So, many married and formerly married women on this site have mentioned how once they were done, and the thought of reconciliation was barely on the radar. As my suspicions that she was being influenced and struggling with her disease proved out to be true, the more I want to stick by her and support her. Yes, the anger issues are real and I am working hard on those. People are noticing. 180 is hardly working for me because she relies on me for so much given her ailments and now alienation from the so-called friend group. I won't deny a certain level of sucker in my thought process, but I also love her and want to help her and keep our family together. Her parents and mine know the level of effort I make to helping her and are so concerned about her health that they are worried something might go down. They don't know about all the rest yet: separation, infidelity rumors, etc. I want my family to survive this. I want to help. I can honestly tell all of you that even if she had cheated, I would work through it with her because the disease and mess have so thoroughly altered her reasoning. Maybe I am an idiot, but never expected to be here, and talking to her sometimes is like talking to a block of ice. Truly no chance for reconciliation. This morning after a PC where I shared the events as best I could exactly how they happened, my counselor handed me a list of traits for someone going through a midlife crisis. My wife has exhibited every one of them. No exaggeration either, including her age and a trigger event, etc., not ignoring that the things we need to work on which lead to the separation are real. But now it would appear I may be battling something different altogether on top of that as well. Any hope now that we can reconcile? I'm feeling pretty much hopeless at this point because I can't tell her what I think I've found without her thinking I'm deflecting away from the separation issues. My counselor told me what I should do for me and my daughter, but that short of listening to my wife I will probably not get very far. Basically told me to go full on 180. I'm crushed to know my chances for R just got greatly reduced, as some MLCs can go on for years or even forever if the person never realizes they are in one. I believe it is coming to a D for me. I simply don't have the stamina to continue living in the limbo too much longer. I'm finding myself starting to look at other women differently, more open to them, if that makes sense. I think the detachment process has already begun. It's just so sad because what we had was, while not perfect, pretty good and easily improvable had she not fallen into this MLC or funk or whatever it is. Seems like a waste to throw away a family like this. Sometime later, my wife and little girl come home tomorrow after being at the in-laws for several weeks. I asked her what the plan was and she told me she didn't want to throw it all away. That she wanted to give me a chance. The chance I asked for when we first separated, but that she didn't want to work on us until she saw real tangible changes for a time. That what we had was worth the chance, but she won't live with the anger any longer. I said I thought that made sense, but at some point, if we did not agree to both work on our relationship 100% to give it our best go, then I didn't want to live together. She was mad at first and said it was an ultimatum, but I said it was for down the road, not today. Just didn't want to be in this same spot in a year, which she understood. Lastly, I told her my only hesitation comes around her falling for someone else, and why would it not possibly happen again? She said if I don't want it to happen, then I need to make sure it doesn't by treating her better and not being angry all the time. Sounded like justification for earlier this summer to me, but also could hear regret in her voice. She then asked me if I had changed my mind and decided I didn't want to have another chance. I did pause. Honestly, if it wasn't for our little girl, I would probably just chuck it in, but I did want a chance, and what we once had was great. She has been better since switching to the new med, but how long should I let the chance go before expecting we both commit to working on it? Her and our daughter came back, and really it started off pretty good. We agreed to do date nights and almost treated as us starting over with each other. While I still harbored resentment for the EA and how things went down, I knew from reading about MLC that talking too much about it would not help. The date nights went well, but she kept telling me she wished I had cheated almost because we had gone so long without bonding, which was in my mind due to her disease. Then one of the date nights we had marathon bonding, as I call it. The next day she passed it off to being pent up and a bit drunk. I didn't think the bonding was going to lead to an R. Final part of the story, she has been back for over a month now. Since the separation it has been 90 days. No separation agreement, no talking to family or friends about it, etc. She frequently references when we build our house next year, or maybe we should buy land. But still no commitment to MC, but told me when we be the 1 month mark. We were off to a great start. Still, I have heard no remorse, no apologies, no anything about what she did to me at the beginning of the summer. I had started 180 back in late June and it's on pause, but still not back to where I was before. This last weekend she had a pain condition that was devastating and I had to take her to the emergency room to get help. I stood by her as usual. Then last night she went to bed first and came to give me a kiss, but it was flat and unemotional. Given her weekend I can kind of understand that, but for some reason I woke up this morning pissed off. and I can't shake it. I am sick of her, tired of her acting like it was all me, angry I have never gotten an apology. I have an MC session in a few days and will bring it up, but want to hear any and all thoughts from everyone. To be honest, I really enjoyed it when she was not around during that month. She was at the in-laws, but I do love her fully. Or who she was maybe before this disease destroyed her. Infatuation is probably the best description. I do believe had he reciprocated we would be talking about a Pia, though she is adamant she has never, would never cheat. That she would leave first and pursue D. The story is weird because I think she is medically overwhelmed, leading to her being mentally compromised. I feel a sense of obligation to her, especially because my daughter watches our every move, but I'm sick of feeling it is always one-sided. I am sick of feeling beta and weak. It's not in my nature to typically accept a role like this, but struggle because she is truly going through something horrible medically. That before its onset we were fine, or at least we seem to be, with the perception that leaving her now would be harsh. It's not in my nature to abandon people when they are down on their luck, but there is a chance she could push me away, and not sure there is much I can do there. I have remained by her side, took her side and believed her during the rumors, supported some of her MLC whims when I could, and in general stepped things up at home with our daughter to compensate for her sick down time, all of which I feel fine about. What is making me angry is the feeling that she almost expects it from me and still hasn't shown remorse. Lastly, because I don't think she is over the I don't trust her. I trust him more than her because I know he would tell her to take a hike as he did it before. Definitely working on myself and my anger. Started running again, dressing better. From an anger perspective I have made some big progress. Even my little girl has noticed, and I love her to death, of course. Hard to separate what happened at the beginning of the summer and her health issues. If a few weeks we have an appointment with a premier pain clinic in the company so we can hopefully find alternatives and ways to make her life easier. Reduce the meds, etc. I guess in response to how long can I last, do I have a drop-dead date? I don't have a timeline, but would like to see what the new doctors can do to help her and how, possibly, that might change things for her and us by default. Interesting point that my anger might be different with someone else. I have had the same thought and actually believe it might be. Things like the marathon bonding followed by denial of its meaning are so far removed from the lady I have known and loved it leaves me confused and angry. I won't walk until we see how some things move forward with the new clinic. That being said, I went home early today and basically told her I'm not going to play second fiddle to some other guy, and while she has my support right now regarding her health and my respect as the mother of our child, she at least is a truly wonderful mom as long as she is not completely wiped out. I am getting to a breaking point on some items that are not negotiable for me. Oh, and like was suggested, I actually have already booked a solo trip to play some poker in Vegas and clear my head. I truly believe the meds had a major part to play in it. Sometimes I couldn't talk to her because she was borderline incoherent in her speech. The guy she liked that didn't like her back even said something was wrong with her, different about her from 6 months ago, however. The other point of what happens if she finds someone who reciprocates, meds or no meds exerting influence, is a major concern for me still, hoping my IC will help me figure out the suited to each other portion. We truly were once. Not entirely sure what changed, and the only thing I see when I search for it is the fibro and meds constantly being changed. Now for course we get to work through an MLC together, and that has added to her issues. I have IC later this week, and I am looking at living situations. She is aware. She asked me today when I got home what was wrong, and so in keeping to our honesty policy I told her what I was considering, and without any bravado made it clear I am no one's plan B. Surprisingly she reacted well in that she didn't fire back, but I think may have been a little stunned, and I detected a hint of sorrow, but not sure if it is because she feels remorse for what has happened or because in her eyes I am plan B. Time will tell. Yesterday I brought her and my daughter to where I work. I transferred 4 months ago, so had never seen my office. Had her meet some of my people. Later in the night, when the pain in her arm got a bit too heavy, she took a muscle relaxer. Nothing too strong, but to take the edge off. Out of the blue she tells me how sorry she is that she doesn't do more to keep our home clean and organized. That she really wants to go back to work if she ever can. Appreciates how strong I've been for her and proceeds to cry. I told her that it's okay and the house is not important to me, her health is. Of course I consoled her since I'm not willing to walk away yet. She said she also realized that had she been able to continue to work, she too was a professional before fibromyalgia. She believes she might have realized the people she fell in with were bad friends much sooner. Even the guys she thought she loved at the beginning of the summer were garbage. On this I agree, because she would be spending the majority of her day with professionals who don't have the time nor the inclination to spend every night drunk and stupid. Update. Just took the family on a final short vacation before school starts for our daughter. Along for the trip was my wife's best friend from childhood. All in all, I give the vacation 2 thumbs up, but one of the nights my wife slipped backwards. Definitely appeared to be med-induced, but she told me she doesn't want to talk about the EA anymore. Just move forward. That she can see us growing old together, but not the time between now and then. Thank goodness her friend was there. It was my hope that she would see my wife in this state so she could confirm for me all that I had been thinking. She told my wife she was seriously in outer space and not behaving maturely or rationally, and was very concerned for her. I took her friend to the airport the next morning alone, and she was in tears. She had no idea my wife had slipped so far off the planet. That she couldn't believe how alone I must have felt all summer. That my wife told her about the other guy she started falling for, and she was like, what the hell? She agrees my wife is in an MLC, and these fibromes are compounding everything. Because she has been friends with my wife and her family since their dads served together. She has even called my MIL with her observations and concerns. Things could get very interesting soon. So, to summarize, I have some confidence that my wife will be forced at some point to see the realities of her situation, and we can begin working through them together. But both my wife's friend and I are now worried she will walk away from our marriage before then and will regret it. My wife's friend even told me that if that happens, she wants me to have my daughter. My wife is in no position to care for her on a full-time basis, and even possibly part-time. Another counseling session for me Tuesday. Should be interesting. My anger issues are really normal to just above normal, I'm finding out. I am working on it nonetheless with my IC, but it is interesting that she picked that issue from our past above any to get fixated on. But it was actually also my first clue to something being off. That being said, if we didn't have any kids, I would probably not have lasted the summer. Since some things have gotten better and we do in fact have child, it has given me more strength to hold on a while longer. Quick update. We will call this 2 steps forward, 1 step back. My wife's best friend called her today, the one that met us for vacation the last weekend. She told my wife told me about the call after it ended, that she had seen some very odd behavior from her one of the nights and the next morning. It had her worried, etc. My wife said it made her really upset and so asked me about it. Confirmed for her what her friend had witnessed, which made my wife tears-eyed. While it pains me to see her go through this, the upside is, she can no longer ignore what I have been pointing out. She has agreed to start counseling ADAPT, still just for her, but it is a start. My counselor told me this week I was handling things well, all of it considered. Told me my plan sounds reasonable, but to keep a check on my personal feelings, which ebb and flow between hoping for a full R and calling it quits. It is odd, since we started to have issues, more women seem to be interested in me. While I couldn't be too bothered right now, it does make the prospect of walking easier. While we were talking, I simply asked how she felt we were doing, to which she said so much better than this summer and even 6 to 8 months ago. That she felt better about us, but still felt we were more best friends than husband, wife, but going right direction. For the most part, given her personal struggles, this seemed good. But I did mention I was not looking for a lifelong best friend. She asked if I thought we would be best friends if we ended it, and I said no, which hurt her. When she asked why, I simply said my friends are loyal. I wasn't trying to hurt her, but realizing she was in a state of openness because of what her friend had told her, I felt honesty, though painful, may be the order of the day. At one point she asked me if I was intentionally sticking around because of our daughter. I said no, that if I ever feel this will not improve beyond what it is now, I will end it so my daughter, hopefully one day, will see what a normal relationship looks like. This surprised her, I think, gave her hope that I can hang in there longer, but also showed her I have thought about walking. All in all, not too bad a day, but sure hope we can get her better soon, as it does get old being a best friend only husband. I have had some steps forward with her and some setbacks. I know in my heart, her condition and the meds unduly influenced her and lead to the semi-E, as I am calling it now, since the had no interest in her and did not reciprocate, showing how messed up it made her. That being said, something in me has broken. I spend most days wishing it was over and the other half hoping we have a full-on R. She has general pain all over, with localized extreme pain in her right arm and shoulder and hips. She remembers most of what happened based on our discussions, but is adamant she did not love him, but admits to liking him. She doesn't remember some of the nights very well where she drank. Fortunately, I was around for those, so I know nothing happened, but in telling her what I observed, she believed me, but was shocked, as she truly had no idea. Even if someone tells me it was 100% driven by the condition and meds, I will still hold her accountable, and I don't know if I will ever trust her again, because who's to say another bad episode and some garbage friends won't push her into doing something stupid again. My anger is much more under control. In fact, it's been a great summer of working on me. Lost weight, new clothes, calm, and quite frankly 180. So while I want to work on it and still hope it works out, another part of me wants to kick the can on down the road. Interesting weekend. My birthday was Friday and she blew it off, but took me to dinner in the end. Told me it creeped up on her. She has had a rough go with the doctors trying some new meds. Her effect is so flat, the best way to describe her is like a psychopath. thus my birthday. She started to come out of it a little bit yesterday from what I could tell, but right now the meds has her sleeping about 12 to 14 hours a day, so from a health perspective not good. On the relationship side of things, I would say it's on hold. Not worse, but not really able to work on it to make it better. I go to Vegas this weekend, alone. I have no interest in doing anything by sleeping, pondering, and playing poker. It's a trip to clear my head and reflect on life in general. I won't cheat. I've decided this whole fiasco of a summer reconfirmed for me it is the absolute lowest thing you can do to someone else regardless of the scenario. I have to power to end things if I want to, and so no reason to cheat when I can just end it and move on. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being great and making progress and 1 terrible and moving backwards, we're stuck at a 6 for now, I would say. One last note for anyone with insight. My wife's condition is impacting my daughter's behavior and view of life, I believe. More and more often my daughter, who is about to turn 5, points out all of her ailments. Imagined, and I think it is for attention. 2 concerns. 1 is whether I am doing enough to pay attention to her, but based on feedback from people I am a really good dad. But my doubts linger. And 2, could it ever be that my wife's condition, should it not improve, be enough of a reason to divorce and ask for 100% custody? I would never keep my daughter and wife apart, but my daughter has already missed 2 days of school because my wife couldn't get up in time. Had another session with my counselor today. He has seen great progress. Likes what he is hearing from me, and when I got home my wife told me the same thing. So, anger not gone, but much better controlled and dealt with than 4 months ago. And my wife has agreed to start seeing a counselor as well, I see for now. Not MC. But it's a step in the right direction, and she goes for her first session this Monday. I can't quite describe my feelings right now, but they seem to be a strange blend of optimism and hope, but without attachment to outcome. I mean to say, if the process my wife and I are going through ends up showing us both to be healthier and better off as co-parents and friendly rather than husband and wife, I think I am really okay with it and support it. And if in this process we end up in a full-on R for the rest of our lives. Beach trip is in 3 weeks. Very excited about that trip. Intimacy is low. Last time about 3 weeks ago, but some of the infrequency is due to her mess being played with right now. And one night we started, I could tell she was into it mentally, but stopped and told me point blank, which I appreciated, that she could barely feel my hands. We think maybe the combo of mess made her numb. I definitely did not feel rejected and could her frustration with it. Just one of those things as we work through it all. Quick update, but hoping for some insight and advice. I am on my solo trip to Vegas, and as planned have done a lot of pondering and soul searching in between. Wrecked at poker. My first full day here I felt uneasy. I find myself hurt and irritated all over again. We have a beach trip together in 3 weeks, and I would bet money, a safer bet than I have found here, that she won't even consider it. She only has ever really bet into when she drinks, which she can't do much now. All weekend long I have been pondering how quick we can get divorced. I have strong negative feelings toward her for the mere fact that my last memories of here are of strife. Quick update. We leave day after tomorrow for our trip to the beach that she set up, so we'll have more to share on that next week. Since my trip to Vegas not much has occurred. We have had a few discussions and she started I see, which she really liked, but while things are not caustic, they aren't really progressing yet either. I am hopeful this coming weekend might rekindle some fire, but would be lying if I didn't admit that everything that has happened the past 4 to 5 months has left me emotionally burned out. If she told me tomorrow she wanted the DI, with all honesty, can tell you I would hardly have a response. Weird. So just got back yesterday from our getaway weekend that the wife set up for us. The weekend was a huge success. We spent a lot of time exploring the location, but in doing so had plenty of time to talk as well. Interesting outcome is that we both reaffirmed that we want to work on the marriage and hope it works, but are pragmatic, and neither of us wants to remain in the marriage if it isn't completely healthy for both of us. I think I am accurate, honest in saying that both of us reached a stage in this process where if it works out, we're happy it did and will never neglect it again the way we have in the past, but if it doesn't, we will remain friends and do the utmost to co-parent our daughter in a way that keeps her self-esteem and happiness intact. Very successful weekend and first step, but still a long road to travel before I think either of us would acknowledge a full R had occurred. Quick update. Had a chat with the wife last night about our future. She feels things have only been improving between us the past few months, and after our recent trip has had the spark partially rekindled. She thinks, and I agree, that the individual work we are doing to improve ourselves is still critical to any long-term success we share together. We both agreed to read the Love Languages book together, which I am going to pick up today on the way home from work. She said it is hard to imagine anymore me not being in her life, and she realizes the deep depression her physical ailments caused her earlier in the summer, and she's sorry for the pain she caused me. I didn't bring up the borderline issue, but she did, and told me looking back it is the best evidence she has of how loopy she was. In the end, we have road still to travel to get to a full R, but we are moving in the right direction. Hope this helps anyone looking for hope. Of course, it would be a mistake for me not to mention that her health has greatly improved and we finally have some doctors making an effort to help her. Lastly, she told me she spent some time reading MLC symptom, and while she can see that she still feels it was more just straight up deep depression, her logic being she wasn't really unhappy with her past or past with me but was in a dark place in general. A month later, things in the R are going fairly well. It takes work and effort, and I think the old saying of 2 steps forward, 1 step back is appropriate. I am describing what it is like, but it's progress nonetheless. The wife is still working through her medical issues, but for the past 75 days it has been stable, which I think was necessary to any work on us beginning. She has stuck to her personal counseling, as have I, and we are both the better for it. Our daughter is none the wiser, it would seem, and thinks the world is perfect, which is great considering she is only 5. My wife and I still fight occasionally, but with far less vitriol and insult than previously, which allows us to get past it. In getting to know myself and her better, there are simply some differences that naturally lead to some caustic moments. Some might say they make us incompatible. It's probably true to some extent, but to us it does not appear to be enough to throw in the towel. For anyone hoping for or pursuing the big R, it is a tough road. I still get angry at her, and sometimes I can't help but wonder if I wouldn't still be happier without her. Then, other times I see her working with our daughter or even how she looks at me and I feel the exact opposite. Know that it will be as much work as keeping a healthy marriage going, and so keep the faith. My comment, our story, I haven't posted one of these in a while. What do you think of reconciliations? Is it possible for everyone? Comment down and let me prepare a series for tomorrow.